Hi, hello, and welcome to the channel. My name is Sarah Barrios, and I am super excited to have you guys here. If you don't know who I am a singer, songwriter, and artist who makes songs about fantasy land, music, and women, and all of the good shit. Doing a series called Queer Questions on my channel where I talk to other queer LGBTQ people and creators and artists. And we are re-recording this because I recorded it and it didn't have any sound. So we're doing it again. I'm here with Hana and Maeve. What's up?
Hi. We're very excited.
Hey, hi. I already gave your name, but you guys just want to like give your sexuality, your pronouns, and then a little bit about you as people?
Absolutely. My name is Hana. I am a content creator and a filmmaker based out of LA, and I use she, they, he pronouns. And I'm a lesbian.
Woo!
I gave my name, but it's Maeve. I use they, he pronouns. I identify as queer, and I am a graphic designer and model.
Some fucking artistic people in this house. When did you realize you wanted to use different pronouns? Was it like an aha moment for you? Was it something that just kind of like naturally kind of happened? What was that process for you?
Me, it was kind of like a natural process. It was a little bit like slow. I just kind of like 2 years ago, maybe like a year and a half ago, I kind of started questioning, I guess, my pronouns a little bit, kind of being like, well, I don't mind they, them pronouns, you know, like I don't dislike it. So I just kind of had the little they at the end of the she slash, you know, in my like Instagram and TikTok bios. And then it just kind of like developed from there. Like I was like, well, I don't hate he, him either, you know, and I just kind of came to the realization that I didn't like mind using any pronouns. So I was like, you know what, it doesn't have to be like a huge thing. So yeah, I'm just gonna use them all.
Love it. What about you, Maeve?
I think it was more of like, I didn't have any examples of people who used other pronouns in my life before like college. So I didn't really understand like that was even an option for myself. I think like with TikTok and with like social media now, people can get that information sooner, which is awesome. But yeah, for me, it took like meeting queer people and non-binary people in college and like them kind of introducing me to like, oh, you feel this way, so do I. Here's what I've decided to do about it. So yeah, it kind of clicked for me in college.
I feel like making those connections like with other people, like for my like I guess sexuality realization, I feel like that was a big thing for me, was like meeting other people within the community and being like, oh, okay, there's a different way of existing. Oh, you do it this way. That's really, really interesting. So
Totally.
I feel like if you're confused, highly recommend trying to make some friends. It helps. It really does help. When did you realize you were non-binary and how did you know?
I guess it was more like a process of elimination than it was like a certainty that I was non-binary. So it was more like, okay, I can pretty much guarantee now that I'm not a girl, or like I don't identify with like the gender I was assigned with. By that means, I guess I just like existed outside of the binary. I think anything outside of 100% agreeing with the gender you were assigned with at birth, to me, is non-binary. So upon learning what non-binary meant and like what those terms were, and meeting other non-binary people and how they, like we were just saying, like how they navigate their non-binariness, helped me to like fully realize that I was non-binary. But I think that I've kind of known my whole life I didn't identify with the gender I was assigned with.
Fuck yeah. Woo! Honestly, I think my computer was overheating. I think it cut out for literally your entire first call.
Okay.
When did you realize you were non-binary and how did you?
It was kind of similar to Maeve's, where it wasn't necessarily like an aha moment. It was more process of elimination and like having conversations with both my queer friends and my like cishet friends, and realizing that there was a bit of a disconnect with how I felt about my gender and then how my cis friends felt about their genders, which is totally cool. But at the same time, I was like, hey, there's something that's not like the other here.
Yeah, something's not connected.
So what is that? Yeah, exactly. Like Maeve was saying, just kind of finding a community, even if it's not in person, even if it's online, to just like talk through that and really kind of let yourself explore in a safe environment is, I think, really important, because without that, like I definitely wouldn't have been comfortable exploring my gender.
I feel like the community aspect is like really, really important. I think a lot of people had asked, like, how do you like meet other people, or how do you like connect with people that maybe are still figuring it out? And I am constantly being like, go online. I have like severe social anxiety, so talking to people in person is really tough. But I'm like, you know, go online, go on TikTok, go on Discord is a really great place. And just like message people and like see. As of recently, I've been doing this kind of like pride campaign thing. And I have put myself out there in a way that I'm not used to by just DMing people and being like, hey, do you want to do this video with me? Also, I don't have any friends. Do you want to hang out? Like, this would be really tight. And I feel like, you know, there's something about just like putting yourself out there. And like 90% of the time I've found within like doing this experience that there are so many people within the community who are so down to just like hang and talk. I think that is something that's so nice about the community, is everybody's like looking forward to helping with one another, like through their own process.
Yeah, totally.
I think it's also because we all had someone within the queer community who we either admired from afar or learned a lot from, or who like was willing to have those conversations with us. And so if like we can help at all with other people who are figuring it out still, like,
of course we're gonna do it.
Right.
Yeah.
I guess any advice for when someone misuses your pronouns, uses your wrong pronouns?
We were just talking about this actually. It's definitely like a person to person thing. I think for me personally, if I'm like never really gonna see them again, then I'm just like, whatever, bro. Like, I don't need to share that part of myself with you if I am never gonna see them again, if it's just like someone at like a coffee shop or whatnot. But if you feel so inclined, you know, like all you need to do is just be like, oh, I use, and then insert your pronouns, you know?
Yeah.
And if they make a big deal out of it, then just be like, all right, dude. Like,
that's on you, my guy.
Yeah. But what I think that we have found is kind of the best and easiest way when you're meeting someone that like, you know, you like really actually want to have a conversation with and stuff, just introduce yourself with your pronouns, you know?
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Hana. I use she, they, he pronouns. What about you? You know, and I think it's kind of the easiest way.
Yeah.
I feel like it can get really exhausting to correct people all the time, every day. And I think that for a lot of people, myself included, like I don't think I realized how exhausting or how draining that was until I was like, oh my gosh, I am wiped and my social battery is drained so much faster. Why is that? Because you're constantly having to like reconfirm your identity to people, like strangers included. So I think I definitely agree with Hana. Like there are times where I'm like, this is just not worth it. To like have this conversation with like a cashier at a gas station.
Right.
Like, but
you feel so inclined though.
Yeah,
like
right.
You know.
I think for me, I just get a little anxious when it comes to correcting people, and that could be really tricky. So for me, the most helpful thing has been my friends asking me, you know, do you want me to say something if I hear someone misgender you? And then us having that conversation, and B, you know, at a certain point, I had enough friends ask me that I was comfortable telling other friends, hey, if you hear someone like using my pronouns wrong or something, if you could say something, that would be awesome. It takes it off of me. And I don't think anyone wants that you are like willing to have a conversation with will like want to get your pronouns wrong.
True.
Right.
Yeah. It's not like malicious. It's just
but
generally.
It's just like awkward to bring it up. So having
Okay.
a third party to be like, maybe use your name and your pronoun in a sentence immediately after someone misgenders me, like that works well. I've gotten to the point too that it used to get to me a lot more, like misgendering, and I think I've gotten to the point with my like gender now that if someone like calls me ma'am in a store or something, like that's a them problem.
Yeah.
I really,
Y'all see this boy?
You're like, okay.
like I wish people would stop using gendered terms because they don't mean anything by it, but they're so used to it.
Right. It's an assumption about your identity as a person, which I'm sure they aren't thinking anything of, but when you start to really pay attention to it, you really don't realize how often you assume gender and how often gender is a part of a conversation about someone you don't know until you're like, oh, like that person that I saw on the thing, you'll be like, oh yeah, she went to the market, or like, oh, I saw her down the street, or oh, he was doing this. And you don't realize how often you're assuming that gender space for them until you're like focusing on it.
I also think in instances of misgendering, like kind of not coaching, but but letting your friends know what the right response is after they misgender you, because it will happen. Like if you're changing your pronouns, it takes adjustment, like we were just talking about. I mean, gender has been so taught to us for so long, and we have so many complicated gender rules that like our brains just need a second to get adjusted. I mean, I'm not going to speak for other non-binary people, but like for me, I was more than willing to give that like time to like adjust and learn my pronouns correctly, especially with people who knew me for a long time before I changed them. Just saying thank you after being corrected, or saying nothing and then just correcting yourself is like best. That's the way I told all my friends to, you know, correct themselves after misgendering. It's just not making it a big deal.
Can you explain how you relate to your pronouns? Do you have a different relationship with different pronouns?
If we're getting to like specifics of like my personal gender identity, I think I'm more close to like gender fluid. Obviously we have these, you know, like kind of predisposed like expectations of what a she or a he or even like a they looks like, you know, which is first of all weird. Like, you know,
absolutely.
Maeve and I talk about this a lot, but they're not like a tertiary gender. It's just kind of not boy or girl, you know. But at the same time, like we still do have those like ideas of what that looks like, and it's hard to kind of escape. But I try to not have like a specific attachment to like who I am and then like what pronouns that I'm using. It's just kind of, for me at least, just a part of like how I'm able to describe myself to the world, which is just kind of like a non-description basically. Like I'm just kind of anything or everything, not really anything specific. So that's my personal relationship with my pronouns. I just, which is kind of one of the reasons I just use any, is just because I don't really feel attached to any of them. But at the same time, you know, there are those kind of like, oh, well, I'm feeling really feminine today, so I don't notice people calling me she, her all the time, you know? So there is that too.
Right.
For me, I'm similar. Like, I think I've gotten to the point now that, you know, the pronouns I'm using currently are just the closest words that we have that function in society to, you know, put me in whatever boxes that, you know, I need to be put in. Honestly, gender is so complicated and like such this just like huge thing that's always changing, and there's so many layers to it that how could I possibly describe that in two little like words, like pronouns that we only have 3 choices from, or neopronouns.
Right.
I don't really have much of an attachment to them. It's more of a way to indicate, you know, especially using he pronouns now, like it's just more of a way to indicate that I am not a girl than it is a way for me to indicate that I am something. I think I don't think I could ever describe my gender in 2 words. So that's no problem with super identifying with a pronoun and being like really excited to be called certain terms, because that it could be super important. It could be life-changing for people to like finally be called something that they've been wanting to be called forever. That's just my, that's just me.
Absolutely. Ironically enough, we have the kind of 2 gendered terms, and those gendered terms, I think, like for someone like myself, I fully identify as a girl, and whatever that fucking means in today's society. But my biggest thing was I never felt super comfortable with the idea that society has placed on what being a girl is and looks like and feels like and talks like. That's never been something that I've fully connected with. And so I have always had a really tough time fully identifying with femininity and womanhood, because it's always been clearly defined for me as a person. And so taking on they pronouns for me was a nice way of being like, I'm this, but I'm also not this at all. Somehow we've taken they and made it a thing also. Like it looks and talks and feels the same way. Ew, what the fuck? How is the process, or maybe it's always been like super just natural, but how is the process in expressing yourself? I find you two to be both very fashionable people. How has that process been, like expressing yourself through fashion while also changing pronouns and kind of finding your gender expression?
Definitely feel like for me, the biggest thing that helped me feel like I wasn't like an imposter with like, because I think that's what a lot of people feel, right? Is like, I want to use these pronouns, but I don't know if I'm like the right person or if I look the right way to like take on that pronoun. But I think exactly how you describe the question, separating gender from pronoun identity and expression. The idea that like our pronouns equal our gender, I think is like really detrimental, because those are like we were just talking about, 3 tiny words or more tiny words. And so to just recognize that like I can use these pronouns and feel a part of that identity, but they also have literally nothing to do with my gender, is really helpful. And just like kind of, for me at least, like shrinking them down and just being like, okay, these are just words and my gender can be whatever, was really helpful and like freeing to be able to like experiment. But I also think exactly what I was saying, like experimentation is really was the best way for me to like start feeling comfortable. It's like I had to kind of push myself a little bit out of my comfort zone, and then, you know, wear something or be perceived by people, and kind of just see how that felt for me. The same way as like you can try on pronouns and like have like friends, you know, call you pronouns and see whether or not you like them. There are definitely times that I was like, all right, not super comfy with this. Maybe I pushed myself a little too far out of my comfort zone, but I think baby steps are always good. So surrounding yourself with other queer people who are doing the same thing can make it feel a lot more normal, and a lot more like, oh, this is okay. I can be not sure of how I want to express myself, and look at all my friends. They're down to support me however, or, you know, but same thing as you were saying, like even online friends. I think any sort of like queer community or queer circles that you can be a part of will definitely help with expression in terms of that stuff.
I love and I've always loved experimenting with fashion and clothes. And I think queer people maybe have a bit of maybe a harder time getting dressed in the morning often, because we're like, oh, like what gender am I today? Or like, how do I want people to perceive my gender? Which is like, at the end of the day, doesn't really matter what other people perceive you as, but at the same time, like does affect you. Can also help your own like self-confidence, like when you look in the mirror and you're like, wow, I'm really looking how I feel today, which is, you know, really cool. And I think I feel generally like most confident when I'm dressed like more masculine, even though like kind of what you were saying, like you have experiences and like you feel like a girl. Like I don't not feel like a girl. Right. And, you know, when I'm feeling extra girl, maybe I'll like put on a dress or something, and that's totally fine. Or, you know, not if I'm feeling extra boy, but like a femme boy, then like I can still wear that dress. But at the same time, people are still going to perceive me like a certain way. And that's a them thing. Right. But yeah, clothes can definitely be a really good way to experiment and try on like different kind of ways that you want to be perceived, and that how like you perceive yourself.
I think that like trans people and non-binary people can like totally have a superpower when it comes to like self-expression. Like that is so cool. We could literally just be whatever like we're feeling on that day based on like how we layer our clothes or like pick out in the morning. And it doesn't have to be anything crazy, but I think it's pretty cool that we're able to kind of just say like, oh, this was in the women's section. No, never mind. No, it's not
anymore, baby. Not anymore.
Not on me. Right.
Not on me. And I also think there's this idea too that like fashion has to also have an identity as well. But I am finding that like you wearing the clothes is what gives it identity, and less the clothing having identity first. And I think trying to find clothing that's going to make you like try to explain who you are. And this is why I love so much the trans community and the non-binary community, because I think it's a lot of how do I put these pieces together to show my inner identity versus trying to find, that's a big fucking bee.
Not during Pride.
Swear to God. But I really love the way that, you know, both communities have really found a way to just kind of take clothing and take away gender and create something that is inherently just theirs, and not something that I can go, oh, that looks like, oh, I've seen that outfit that reminds me of like Harry Styles. It's like, no, it doesn't. It's just like specific to this one person, which I think is really fucking cool. I think there's also this idea that like no matter what gender you go by or pronouns you use, that you have to have like a consistent fashion thing. That's something that I have, since coming out as bisexual, kind of slowly started breaking down for myself of like, you don't have to have like a uniform. Like you want to wear a dress one day, you can. And you want to wear a dress and feel masculine, you can do that too. Like there are no rules.
Also like gendered clothing, it's so funny to like look back at the history of it, because pink was used as like an inherently masculine color in a lot of like instances in history, and so were dresses. Like you see portraits of like boys heels started with men and soldiers. So it's like it's so interesting to like look at how we
making up shit.
Right, we're literally just pulling shit out of our asses,
which is weirdly comforting, because then you can just be like, all right, well, this used to be a boy's thing, now it's a girl's thing. I'm just gonna wear it, and
so it looks like it's mine. I can wear it all I want.
Right,
like you guys were saying, like expressing yourself, trying things on, trying clothing on, and being like, okay, this is definitely not it. I feel super uncomfy, and not uncomfy like I'm uncomfortable because this is new for me, like uncomfy, like I don't feel like myself in this, I hate this. And then I think that's what you're supposed to be looking for in your clothing, is not like, do I feel the most masculine in this? Do I feel the most? It's like, do I feel myself in whatever I'm wearing? And I think that is the biggest key to like kind of finding the best expression for you, is like you're trying to enhance your internal feelings with outer feelings. That's all of our questions. Thank you guys so much for hanging out and for filming this for a second time, and for with my fucking shitty computer. No, you guys are the best.
Thank you.
Do you guys have anything that you want to plug, or you want to promote, or you want to push? I'm going to leave all of their links to their Instagrams and all of their social medias down below in the description. But is there anything you guys want to push specifically?
I mean, if you want a necklace or some cool jewelry.
Yes. Hana makes jewelry.
Amazing. Thank you.
So definitely check that out.
Make sure to follow Maeve's modeling adventures on Instagram and their styling adventures as well.
Yeah, if you need any
Sarah's music adventures. Sarah's freaking the best.
Very true.
Thank you. I will also say, if you need any like clothing recommendations or like clothing inspo, if gender is something you're trying to figure out, pronouns, sexuality, go check out Hana and Maeve's Instagrams, because I feel like the clothing is unmatched, the styling is unmatched, and I feel like it's going to really help people if they just have a browse and take some inspo from them. It's like strong vibes. Bye.
Bye.